sessions. The amount of times I think, oh my God, imagine if I forgot and then I'd have to go and like record it all over again. Oh, hello, ladies. It's lovely to see you again. And I can't believe it. I say that, I feel like I say this every month, but I can't believe we're moving into the third module already. It feels like we started 5 minutes ago, and now here we are, and module three. And this is reconnecting to you. And in the first module, we got curious and we gained awareness. And then in the second module, we started to understand more about our parts, what they were holding and what they're doing for us. And so now a really important stage is to start reconnecting to you. Now, what I want to be clear on, a lot of people have the approach when they get to this sort of stage is that like it's a building phase, as if you arrive with something that isn't right, isn't there or isn't right. And I want to reframe that there's nothing missing from you already, or nothing that needs to be constructed, that everything we explore in this workshop is already within you. So the work is not building, it's reconnecting. So it's always been there, and it's about those parts that have been carrying it, have been kind of clouding it, so to speak. So let's get started. So before we start to give you a bit of an overview of what's coming today, I used to call this reconnecting to the selves, right? So like self-compassion, self-confidence, self-worth, self-acceptance, all those sorts of things. And I was thinking about this because I've reframed it slightly because obviously, as we know, we've already talked about self as the IFS concept of you and the 8 C's that clarify that. So the calm, curiosity, compassion, confidence, courage, clarity, connectedness, and creativity. It's written down. That's why I've remembered them all this time. Um, and two of the things that we people ask, say they want more of a lot of the time is confidence and compassion are the C's of self. So the things that people tell me they're lacking are qualities of self. So they're not skills they're missing, they're a part of your nature of who you are. So another thing that's important for me to say here is that self cannot be damaged, right? It cannot be lost. No matter what you've been through, self is whole. Think of the sun, as I said before, the parts are like the clouds that come in front of it and make you think that it's gone away, like on an overcast day, you're like, "Oh, no sun." It's always there. It's just the parts that are holding their burdens, their fears, their old stories, their beliefs are in front of the sun. And so the work here is about continuing to work with those parts of you, which you've already been doing, to start to get them to move back so you get that reconnection. So basically, the sun shines again, right? So when a part of you says, I have no confidence, the part is telling the truth of its own experience. Okay, that part doesn't have confidence because maybe it's holding fear or shame or an old belief, and it's standing in front of your natural inbuilt confidence. And so again, notice the language of those things that I said before, like self-confidence, self-compassion, self-worth. Every one of those begins with self, because every one of them is pointing home back to us. So we go out into the world searching for confidence in courses or achievements or other people's approval or validation. And we never quite find it there because it lives where the name suggests it does, in us. So this is why I've called this workshop Leading from Within. Because when parts trust self enough to soften back even a little, it gives you that connection to self. And I very clearly can tell now what's leading, whether I'm leading from self or leading from parts. And as you can imagine, certain situations will trigger parts to come forward. And like, for instance, I'm going to be dining out on this for years. Going back to recently to my parents, right? I was very aware, self was aware that parts were leading, and yet I struggled on some occasions to break through, so to speak, because they were so strong. But I knew and I was aware, didn't necessarily change things in that, but it's in that moment. But it's that we all have certain situations. Often those closest to us are the ones that can trigger those parts the most. So When we talk through this, six things we're going to talk through today, these are not six individual product projects, right? It's one relationship between you and your parts. And as that relationship deepens, as you accept and your parts experience being seen, being heard, being accepted by you, confidence, compassion, acceptance, love, worth, all of that flow naturally. You don't have to manufacture even any single one of them. When you're leading from self, it all happens naturally. And one other thing before we jump into the first self is if you Googled how to build self-confidence, you're going to get a list of actions back, right? Do this and you'll feel that way. And I'm not saying that some actions can't help. Absolutely, they can build on it. What I want you to know, though, is going outward is never going to give you the sustained sense that you're looking for. It's going inward and feeling rather than outward and doing. But I don't also want to demonize doing things because in some instances, some actions can really help. So, what we're going to be building over the next two modules is creating a new narrative, a new identity. And I say that really carefully because, again, we're not building it, we're reconnecting and helping you to consciously create it. So, any statement you say after the words I am, go deep. They are identity level statements, ways in which you describe and define yourself. And however you do that is what you bring into the world. So consider this for a second. Who wrote your current identity? And how did you create it, Pip? How did you do it? How did you learn who you are? How did you learn who to be, how to show up in different situations? Because you weren't born with that. You're born a blank slate.
From my learned experience.
Yeah. So if you think about it, remember when you're really young, up to the ages of like 6 or 7, you're a sponge and you soak up based on the experiences around you. So mostly your current narrative, which is often quite unconscious, which we're bringing more into conscious awareness through the work we've already started to do, parts of you learned very early on, stories and beliefs that you're currently living from. Statements like, I'm shy, I'm not creative, I'm too much. These are the stories and narratives that we're living from, and these aren't truths. They're the voices of those parts describing what they're carrying, those heavy beliefs, the feelings that they took on maybe long ago. And they've been living in those stories as if they're facts. So, what we're going to be doing over the next couple of modules is to start to live from a more consciously created identity. I also want to state out that 4 weeks in each of these things, we could do like a year in each of these things, right? It's really quick. So I want to set realistic expectations that just to continue with that curiosity and to start to build. It doesn't have to happen of, okay, I've got to understand everything before I can start building. It's about everything happening alongside it. And I had a client once that said to me, she'd been in some relationships and she just got out of one and she's like, I need to heal myself before I get into another relationship. And I went, love. Realistically, you ain't never going to get into another relationship then because you have to live your life whilst doing it. And actually, by living your life, you're getting more learning, more feedback to help you with that healing and change. So it's not about putting your life on hold, it's about using life and experience to test things out, to be curious with, to learn more. Does that make sense? So, we are more awakening our own identity. We're getting now because when we first learn who to be, who we're being right now, we were really young. We didn't have our conscious mind there to make a choice. It was just, okay, this is what it is. We just soaked it in. So now we're getting to consciously create it. And this is only possible when you start to compassionately challenge the way that you see yourself and the way that you see the world. As I've said before, most of us are walking around asleep, blended with whichever part is the loudest at that time, buying into every negative thought or belief that these parts hold. So, what this program's helping you to do is bring curiosity to those parts, notice the parts in their stories, and be far more conscious in how you relate to them. So, as we move through all these different expressions of self, I encourage you to notice what each one means to you, which parts sort of come up and what you're hearing. Remember, they're all trailheads, they're all information for you. Any questions on any of that before we head into self-confidence? No, all self-explanatory. Okie dokie. Well, self-confidence, I feel like if I had $1 for every time somebody told me they wanted to feel more confident, I would be a lot better off. And a lot of people seem to believe that confidence is something you either have or you don't have. Um, and also they tend to think that if we could just get more of it, everything would be okay. Some people believe that by having confidence, you have the confidence and you know that you're just going to cruise through life and everything is easy and you know everything's going to be okay. And that is not true. No one on this planet knows what's going to happen. So no one can know that it's all going to be okay. So I want to introduce you to an idea that self-confidence isn't knowing that everything will be okay. It's knowing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. And that's a big shift. So I want you to think about it. Think about something now that maybe you've got some worry or some concern around. And if you had that belief firmly installed inside of you that whatever happens, you'll be okay, what happens to that fear or worry about that situation? Does it help? Whatever happens, I'll be okay. I'm going to use your example, Linda, just because that's the one that I know about next doing that talk. And if you have that belief around that, like whatever happens, I'll be okay, what changes about that situation?
That makes me feel, yeah, settled, and I can do this.
Yeah,
The anxiety in me doesn't kind of rise up.
yeah, absolutely. So I want you to see that as what that's my definition for confidence. It doesn't have to be yours, but I want to just put that as a different one towards you. You're not going to play the catastrophizing over and over again. You're not going to be predicting because you have the belief, I don't need to predict because whatever happens, I can handle this. And remembering that confidence is, again, one of those C's of self. So when self is leading, you don't need to perform the confidence, it's just simply there.
Mm,
So our minds are extremely good at remembering anything that ever went wrong, ever. Not so great at remembering all the good stuff. But when you're feeling nervous or worried about something, your subconscious searches back through all the memories of anything slightly similar where something went wrong and it'll remind you.
mm,
So helpful. Right. So that's that protective part, believing it's doing its job to protect you by stopping you from being hurt again or embarrassed again. But to bring some balance, we also need to start acknowledging what we can do, what we have done, and really let ourselves store those memories for next time.
mm,
So when things go wrong, we tend to just get on with it and keep going through. We don't stop and acknowledge, hey, that went really well. Actually, that was a really good experience. I did it, and let that sink in and let that memory be stored.
mm,
Remember, it's a part of you that isn't feeling confident. So when you change from I am not confident to a part of me isn't feeling confident, again, that's the shift. And we can
mm,
go towards that part. What does it need? What's it scared would happen? And all those sort of questions, all the ones that we've been working on already. And in the meantime, start to acknowledge what you're capable of. You know, what you're doing, how you're managing things, how you get through every single thing that were concerned about, because that starts to reset that bias a little bit.
mm,
When you think about something that you don't feel confident about, whether it be work, relationships, situations, whatever it might be, does it shift when you have that belief of whatever happens, I'll be okay? And who can notice parts of them that come up with yes, but, or anything like that to that belief? And so, what for me is great about that is it's not like, oh, damn it, that part won't believe it. It's like, okay, well, that's really interesting. It's nice to know that there's that part there. I can be curious with that part because that part's going, it's not very safe to believe that because you're leaving yourself open because all I've believed in the past is blah, blah, blah. That's what's kept you safe. That's not true, right? You've been safe because you've been safe and you've got through it because it's dramatized it. So, thinking about confidence in a different way. At the end of each of these topics, as always, there's questions for you to go deeper into them. And these are getting possibly what feel like deeper questions as well. So if you, they're potentially questions to sit with and maybe ponder on rather than read it right. There's gonna be some things that pop up straight away and noticing them. So notice if there's a particular question that stands out for you that maybe you want to just keep in your mind for a few days. Okay, self-belief is often defined as confidence in your abilities or judgment. I want to, for the sake of this program, adapt it slightly. It's about the beliefs you hold about yourself and whether they're carrying you or weighing you down. When the beliefs underneath are kind and true, your confidence in your abilities follows naturally. And so remember what we talked about last month, that beliefs are not truths. They're burdens that have been picked up by parts of you along the way, often in earlier life. And a belief is essentially just a thought you've thought over and over again until the part just begins to think it's fact. And parts don't just hold the beliefs, they live them. As we talked about, they live in that story that belief is, right? A part of you that believes that I'm not enough has been collecting evidence for years and filtering out any information that goes against that belief. And again, it's been working really hard from a young age to keep you safe. It's doing its absolute best for you based on a conclusion it made when you were really young. They're not relevant now. I would suggest a lot of them weren't relevant then, but that was just the way we interpreted them.
Mm.
So, this is often why you can't just simply argue a part out of a belief, and often why affirmations shouted over the top of an unconvinced part rarely work.
Mm.
The parts need to be heard. Beliefs unravel when the part carrying them feels safe enough to put them down.
Mm.
And of course, the key to that is connect with self. And the more the parts trust you, the more they're willing to release or loosen their grip on it. And the audio that goes with this workshop will help you to do that with beliefs. So again, it's about building a relationship with the parts of you, appreciating what they've been trying to do for you. And rather than meeting them with frustration and trying to get rid of them, when they get that sense of appreciation and they get heard, things start to change. And it's more willing to put that part down. And awareness starts the unraveling. So you've already, in many areas of your
Mm.
life, already started to unravel a lot of these beliefs. The moment you see a belief, you're no longer fully living in it. It's when you don't even know it's there. It's
Mm.
like a blind spot. That's when it's at its strongest.
Mm.
So we've done some questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I just want you to write down and you feel free to share what comes to mind. We've done things similar at the beginning, so let's see where you are now. How would you describe yourself? If you want, you can say that as how would I finish the sentence? I am.
Mm.
And what is your most positive thought about yourself? I'll just do one more of these now. How would you finish this sentence? People like me don't. People like me don't. How would you finish that sentence? Or you can take the don't out and just people like me. Okay, so now I'm just going to say some statements and I want you to notice what comes up for you immediately. And I'm not expecting you all to go, oh, yes, it's all amazing because I've done 2 months worth of work and it's all fabulous. I want you to notice maybe if it feels any different to how it would have felt before, and just notice again. So the first statement, I have control in my life. What's your immediate response to that? Is it an absolutely no? Is it a or is it a yes? Or any variation? Anyone want to share?
Of
Yeah.
course I do.
Yeah, it's a yes. Yeah.
It's a yes for
Yeah.
you.
It
Okay,
wasn't a year ago and a year and a half ago, but now it's a yes.
okay. Alicia, how about you?
I have lots of control in my life.
You're like, yes, of course, that's what I do.
It's all controlled. No, it's not all controlled. That's the problem. That's not a, it's not a problem. It just is.
Just is. Okay, let's try this one. The world is a safe place. No.
Yep.
Anyone have a different thought?
Nice. I am a safe place.
Nice. I like that. I am a safe place. Like that. And how about this one? Anything is possible in my life.
Yep.
Yep. And you might notice conflict in parts coming up. You might have a part that goes, yeah, and then a part that goes, yeah, but
I had a year but, and the but that popped in my head was I'm never going to be a supermodel.
do you want to be?
No,
Can't imagine anything worse, but there you go.
no.
So be aware as well of anything that follows statements like I believe or I think in your everyday speech, because again, your language starts to give away your past beliefs. Um, and a word about new beliefs. When we try to place a new belief over the top of a part that's still holding one, you can end up with what we call polarization. And you'll have some parts that are polarized have very opposite views. So if you try to install a belief of I am enough, while another one is like, no, I'm not, it can end up with a bit of head bashing. So the ideal is to find the belief that is maybe getting in the way or feels like it's getting in the way and get the part to loosen its grip on that one. And then we can start to introduce a new one. So, with everything we've talked about there, start to consider like, how do I want to describe myself? And we talked about this right back at the beginning as well. That might have changed. What words would you put or want to put at the end of I am? What do I want to believe is possible for me? How do I want to view the world? And as you have parts of you or that more self connection that comes up and answers those questions, parts may come up and disagree with those. And that's simply information. Those parts have been carrying those old beliefs for a long time and they may need some reassurance before they're willing to consider something new. And that's also a great opportunity to use that connection with part audio from last month as well. Now, as I said at the beginning, that anything that comes after the I, those words I am, goes deep and forms part of our identity. Now, some people will also tell you not to add anything at the end of I am. And I just want to introduce this because this can be a little bit too much to start with. If you just leave it as I am, anything and everything is possible for you. You're not defining yourself in any way. It also means when things in your life start to change, it doesn't feel like your whole foundation's being rocked because that identity of I am, for instance, I am a mother, and then the kids all move out, and it's like, oh my God, who am I now? Because that's been part of it. Um, it can feel like a bit of a stretch, but that I just wanted to plant that little seed of I am. Pip, you were smiling. Have you heard that's a Peter Crone one that is as well? That well, it's from him that I heard a lot of people talk about that. For me, it's at this point, it's more powerful to just think about how you want to end that and be curious about the parts that come up that resist that. In the notes, I've put an action in at this point, something I want you to start thinking about. And I may have done this with some of you that I've worked one-to-one with, is starting to create a belief statement. So in the next month, in the next module, I just said before, we can't just put in a new belief over the top of it. So this month it's about starting to loosen the grip and starting to see yourself differently and starting to think a belief statement is like a personalized affirmation, 3 to 4 sentences long, something that you can recall from the top of your head when you've remembered it. Think of this less of building something new, like we said before, but more giving words to what has potentially been true all along. So it might be something, it might just be I am statements, or it might be something around how you want to see the world, what feels possible. Using words like I am becoming sometimes make it feel more reachable than just I am. Um, so if that feels better for you, then by all means do it. But just start making notes of words or phrases or feelings, anything that rings true or anything that really feels, when you say it and you're just like, oh, that feels right. And we're going to build it over the next month or so. So there's only two things that are required from a belief statement to be impactful. One is that when you say it or write it, it creates a positive response within you. It's not necessarily going to have you dancing around. If you're feeling like absolute crap and you say it or think it or write it down, it's not necessarily going to have you dancing and doing a jig, but it's going to move you. It might just create a sense of peace or I can take a breath. And the other thing is there needs to be at least an ounce of belief, right? There needs to be a little tiny part of you that goes, yes, I can believe that. And it might be a really quiet part. But if there's no belief in there whatsoever at this moment in time, it can be a little bit of a more uphill thing. So that's something to start thinking about. Just writing down words, phrases, feelings, things that ring true, things that you want to become part of this consciously created narrative that you live from. A thing about what's possible for you, how you view yourself, who you are, how you see the world, how you want to show up. It's just at the moment just a seed that we're planting, and we're going to build it over the next month or so. Any questions around that? Mine has evolved, and I always tell whenever I tell Aid mine, he's like, oh my God, how do you remember that? Because mine's been added to so many times. I share mine. Do you want me to share mine with you?
Yeah.
Quite long-winded. I am determined and focused. Life is an adventure. That bit there, life is an adventure for me, impacts me so positively nearly every single time. What that means to me is you ain't getting out of this alive. Why do you want to get to the end of end of your life with regrets? Who cares what people think? You're here to enjoy it. That's what that life is an adventure means effectively to me. Life is adventure and for action. I'm going to take some action too. I'm so grateful I get to live this beautiful human experience because that to me is also a reminder that none of this stuff means anything. For me, this is just my human experience and my soul evolution or whatever. That's my belief anyway. But for me, it's reminding me this is just a moment, my human experience. I choose to live from love, accountable to my soul. I was listening to a podcast, oh gosh, a year or more ago now, and they talked about being accountable to your soul. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
love that. It's about basically living in true to you and what's intuitively you. So it's a very self-led thing. Um, yeah, that's mine. I did break it up to give you explanations of lots of things there.
Nice. Nice.
Okay. So just starting to think about that. And as I say, this doesn't have to make sense to anybody. It doesn't need anyone else's approval. It's just something that feels right and feels right for you now. And it can change and evolve and grow, and it will. Mine's very different to how it used to be.
Mm.
Okay. Self-compassion. Now, this is something that often people struggle with. And I hear people say to me that compassion doesn't create change. What they really need is a kick up the arse. And that's what I hear over and over again. But the kick up the arse is usually your inner critic, and it's a part doing its best to motivate you. And what it can also do is create more shame, resistance, and exhaustion rather than change. So compassion is actually allows parts to soften and for change to happen. And remember again, compassion is one of the eight C's of self. You don't have to generate it. It's the energy that's naturally there for you. Um, Something that's really important for me to say as well at this point is that your inner critic is part needs compassion too. And I hear it so many times go, oh my God, I wish that part would just bugger off, right? Because it's really annoying me. But actually, that I would suggest our critic parts often have had the most judgment from other parts, right? Because it feels like it's not, we don't like it, it's making us feel worse. But actually, it is doing a job that it's trying to help you. And often it's learnt its voice from someone else a long time ago. So trying to be kind to yourself while at war with your critic is one part fighting another.
Mm.
Nobody wins. So when we turn towards the critic with curiosity, that part receives compassion. In fact, I was doing some work with a client on this yesterday, and all of a sudden, because she had this very strong part of her that was going, oh my God, like why did you do the jobs that you've been doing? Why didn't 10 years ago you make different choices? You've wasted 10 years and it was really critical. And when she went towards that part, for a start, she had these other parts coming out, try to justify it and protect her from this critic part. But then when she went towards it and actually goes, okay, and she let that part feel her curiosity, immediately she said it feels like relief, like, oh, you're
Mm.
finally listening. And actually, by the end of it, I was like, how are you feeling towards that part now? She was just like, oh my God, it's been working so hard for me. And actually, it was starting to learn and realizing there was another part that would trigger the critic part. Um, the part of her that was holding a belief of scared to be seen and stay small. And that part would be the part that the critic was working against. So it's also pointing out the other part that needs some curiosity too. But you can see how it's all interconnected, all connected together. And I want to introduce you to a woman called Dr. Kristen Neff, who's apparently the world's leading expert on self-compassion. How you get that title, I'm not quite sure, but there you go. But she has a concept which for me is really important, and it talks about tender self-compassion, which is that self-acceptance, that soothing, nurturing, nourishing, and self-acceptance. And then she talks about fierce self-compassion, which is all about boundaries, taking action, motivating. And there's a little image in your handout which describes the two different types. Both are needed, right? So if you're keeping yourself going, oh, there, it's okay, don't worry about it, but you're keeping yourself in a situation that really isn't serving you, that's not compassion. In that moment, what you need is that fierce self-compassion to say, come on, we've got this. Let's take that first step and we can go. That's the fierce self-compassion that she talks about. And other times you will need the soothing part. So it's about knowing which part is there, what is needed in that moment. Often we find it easier to have compassion for others. I hear it all the time from my clients when they talk about, oh, and this friend was struggling and oh, bless her heart and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like that. Oh, imagine if you talk to yourself like that,
Mm.
right? So even a question of what would I say to a friend who is feeling like this starts to open some doors as well.
Mm.
I've got a friend who, if I say something about myself, she's like, don't you talk about my friend like that. Okay.
Mm.
Oh, I like
So
that.
good.
It's really fun. And you just snapped you out of it. You're like, oh, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. And she's right, right? Um, the one thing about parts work and IFS that I love is often it's easier to bring compassion to a part of you rather than the whole of you. Trying to love all of you or all of me is feels impossible, right? Because often there's parts of you you don't want to even admit are there.
Mm.
So turning towards one part of you. And I'll never forget there was one client that always comes to mind when I think about this. And this part was she had so many parts that were critiquing her and trying to motivate her and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And there was this part of her that was just desperately needing some compassion. And was desperately wanting it from her mum, but was never going to get it. So when she turned towards it, and then of course, we had some emotion, a lot of emotion there, but she felt I could easily give that part of me compassion, but asked me to give me compassion as a whole, then it's a no. So starting to take steps with compassion rather than expecting you to bring it to the whole. One thing I want to mention to be prepared for when you start to do bring in more compassion is what something that called Kristen Neff calls backdraft. And that is when a part of you that's been out in the cold for so long, potentially, starts to feel that compassion and effectively thawing. Often what thaws first is the hurt. So if tears or old pain show up when you speak kindly to that part of you, nothing's gone wrong. It's a sign that the compassion has landed. But often it can show up as hurt that comes up when you get compassion. There, backdraft. I thought that was quite a
Yeah.
nice way of putting it.
Mm.
What comes up for you guys when you think about self-compassion? Because it is something that a lot of us do struggle with. How do you feel, or where do you feel you are at? Is it something you struggle with? Who would say their critic is stronger than their compassionate side?
Yes, at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I've been trying to work on, being my own best friend, much like what your friend Alicia is saying to you, to
Mm,
be my own best friend. Um, I've been trying to do that for a wee while because it's a
Mhm.
constant work, right? It's yeah.
Yeah. And can you see the difference between the tender and the fierce self-compassion? Because sometimes it is the fierce compassion that's needed. It's not just the there. I'm gonna just allow myself to sit here and wallow, right? Sometimes for a
Yeah.
while, that's okay. But if we only have the view that self-compassion is that softness, then there's going to be times when you're going to feel stuck in it almost. And that's the time when the fierce self-compassion is about taking action, setting boundaries, saying no, motivating you.
Yeah, because that gives you the doorway into growing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where the growth comes. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
I think
good.
the fierce compassion is what, like, I've always saw not very compassionate because I don't really do the tender compassion thing, but the fierce compassion, like, whether it's me or a friend or something that needs help, I'll just move forward, like,
Mhm.
yeah.
So if fierce comes more naturally, does it feel like maybe the tender self-compassion is lower and could be dialed up a little
Yes.
bit? Jill, were you about to say something?
No, I don't know if it's really self-compassion or if it's more self-belief, but when my daughter is going through something at the moment, and I sent her this little meme, and it was like, "You have survived every single worst day of your life. You've got this." And normally, I'm more tender compassion towards like others and towards myself. And I was like, "Come on, you got this. You can do this. You can pick yourself up. You've survived every single worst day of your life. You can do it." And when I said it to her, I went, "Oh."
Hmm.
Oh, have I? Yeah,
Heard that myself.
yeah, yeah.
It's so true. It is so true. That's the thing that we get through. And actually, that whatever happens, I'll be okay has been a true for 100% of your life. right? Because here you are.
Mm.
And I know we've talked about that before. I think that is like to your point, Jill, you've so many things are true. We just don't stop to acknowledge them.
Mm.
Just go from one problem to the next scenario, to the next struggle, to the next challenge. And it's without even acknowledging. And I remember again, a client that was needed to feel a sense of achievement. She said, I want to really be achieving more. And so when we actually stepped back and looked at it, she's been achieving left, right, and center. She just hadn't stopped to feel it, to acknowledge it and to feel it. And she was just like, oh, hmm. So yeah,
Mm. Mm.
I
important.
think I find it easier to have self-compassion than a lot of other women because I don't have kids. And I think that your kids are always your first thought. So it's
Mm.
harder to allow time for you because your daughter's messaging you upset and you can't be upset that day because she's upset. So you have to be there for her kind of thing. Whereas I can go, my door's shut, see you later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's probably some truth in that. Hey, yeah. I feel like it's been easier for me since the kids have moved out because there's that more, you have, to your point, Alicia, you have more time, right? You have more space to be able to do that.
Yeah. I don't know how anyone with little kids has any space for anything like it.
Oh, I know. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think any of us have very little
Come to
kids,
my
do
work
we?
day.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you have kids you have your kids at school.
180 of them.
Your
Oh.
job is like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, same.
I do love it. I love it.
I can't think of like our worst day.
I've been counting the sleeps to the holidays.
That's why
Actually,
Jill's doing that job and not the
I
rest of
love
Yeah,
us.
it.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. You're
I
amazing,
love it.
Jill.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just
No. Thank you.
honestly.
Okay, let's move on to self-acceptance. And this is a biggie, right? Well, let's start by me asking you a question like, what comes up for you when I say self-acceptance? Does it be, oh, yeah, we can do that? Or is it like, oh, like what comes up when I say that word, self-acceptance?
I was thinking all of me,
Yeah,
the
all
whole
of you,
package.
the whole package.
Mm.
Is there like reservation? Is there a part of you that doesn't believe it's possible?
No, I believe now it's possible.
Good.
But I do believe that like it's the becoming. I'm becoming, yeah, that part. Yeah.
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 Aspirational rather than yeah. Mm.
Reality.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, self-acceptance is accepting all parts of you, right? When you truly do this, shame becomes a thing of the past. For most people, this is a continual journey and not necessarily a destination you reach quickly.
Mm.
One of the most radical ideas in IFS is that there are no bad parts. Every single part of you, including the ones you wish weren't there, have a positive intention for you. And actually, this is very different to a lot of other, I suppose, modalities or what you want to call them. Was listening to somebody recommended a podcast to me a while ago, and I listened to it, and it was about the inner critic. And it was like, and you tell that inner critic. And I was like, whoa, no, you don't tell the inner critic that, you listen and you were. So, yeah, for me, this is a very different part. So, self-acceptance becomes more possible when you understand. And Alicia, I want to think about your lady's maid, right? You kind of was like, oh God, she drives me insane. And now you're like, I love her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that,
think like self-acceptance for me, like 3, 4 months ago, I would have gone no way. But now I'm like I'm me. What are you going to do about it?
yeah, absolutely. And that's shifted. And there'll be other parts. And we all have, and in fact, I've had in the past week or so, I've had several clients say to me, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to share this with you. And I feel very privileged that they have felt comfortable and safe enough to share, but they've shared parts of themselves that they're really ashamed of. And it's felt as soon as normally happens, because when you shine a light on shame, it can't live in the light. It feels such a relief, especially when you're met with, that makes sense. I get it. What might that part be trying to tell you rather than, oh. One person, this broke my heart a little bit. One client said that the last time she'd spoken about this was probably like 7 years ago or so when she went to see a therapist. And when she went to rebook in, she was refused an appointment. And I was just like, oh my God. And it wasn't even, I'm like, I totally got understood and could resonate with the part that she was sharing. It was nothing horrendous or anything. And I just thought, oh my God, poor thing.
Mm.
Which has also made me think about when I'm teaching about unconditional positive regard, and if you can't have it, pass on, but do it really gently. It's kind of, don't be judgy in it. So I want you to understand that it takes another C of self. It takes real courage to be able to accept all parts of you. Because as I say, there's parts of you you do not want to admit that's there. And has everyone heard of the phrase shadow parts? So shadow parts are parts of us that we basically put in the shadows because we don't want to acknowledge that there. We want them kept hidden. We want them pushed away or locked out of sight because we've learned that they were unacceptable. It's something that if someone pointed out one of these to you, it would be common to react really strongly against it. You want to deny that that part exists. And the power comes when you can accept that part of you, because as I say, shame evaporates when you shine a light on it. So to get awareness of these parts, think about the words that would trigger you. For me, a while ago, quite a while ago now, the word lazy was always a big trigger for me because I would vehemently deny that I was lazy because I'd always been told that being lazy was a negative thing. You get brought up, don't be lazy. If I was honest, I thought I was lazy at times. So if you get triggered by a word and you vehemently denying it, as soon as anyone, bless him, my kids and my husband are always like, oh God, I can't you just mind games. If they vehemently deny something, I'm like, okay, you think you've got that part. And they're just like, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, you do. It's okay. It's okay. Sort of thing. They're like, oh. Um, but as soon as I could acknowledge that actually I do feel like I'm lazy at times, and actually I reframed it as it wasn't laziness. It's just in the world we live in, rest is just not seen as something that we should be doing. And that certainly wasn't seen when I was younger. Stop being lazy, get up off the sofa, what are you doing? Got to be doing something all the time, blah, blah, blah. And that's just the fear and belief from what was modeled to me that, again, and we'll talk about this in a sec, productivity being linked to your worth, right?
Mm.
And so when that's modeled to you that you can never rest, you've got to be going the whole time, then lazy does feel dangerous and it feels unsafe. So as soon as I could shine a light on that part, accept it, then that word no longer triggered me. It was the trigger was completely um, dissolved. It went. So many
Is
of the
that because is that
go on.
because you replaced it with that whole concept of I'm allowed to rest? But like how did it defuse?
So
Mm.
partly, first of all, it was actually acknowledging and being okay to say, actually, I do feel at times that I am lazy. And then being curious with that is like, what makes me be lazy? And what I realized was that, and for me, lazy doesn't exist, right? Now, some of you may disagree with that because I have the belief that everyone's always doing the best they can at that moment in time with the resources they have. If it appears lazy, there's a reason for that, right?
Mm.
If all they do is sit around and do nothing, that's happening for a reason. So if we bring curiosity to it, lazy disappears. There's a reason behind it. So I would say it's from, yes, being able to reframe that because I realized, well, maybe I'm not lazy. Maybe I'm resting. And some
Mm.
days, yeah, I do rest more than others. Maybe that's because I'm tired. Wow, maybe that's the
Yeah,
thing. So
yeah.
yeah, it's possibly looking to reframe. And sometimes it can be a part of you that maybe goes against your values. Maybe it's, for
Mm.
instance, a part that likes to gossip and judge people. And so you would like, oh, no, I'm not gossip, I'm not gossip. But if you can say, at times I do get pulled into that. And
Mm.
that's, again, if I look at somebody who gets pulled into gossiping, which was absolutely me in the past. In fact, bless, I felt really terrible. I was at my hairdresser's a while ago, and she's very much like me, and we have quite deep conversations. And this other client came in and she said, "Oh my God, I feel so bad." She goes, "I was like, I felt like that was gossiping in front of you. And I don't do that, really. I don't do that." And she was just like, I was like, "It's fine. I'm not judging you." But you get pulled into it. And there's a part of you that maybe feels it's safer to join in and be accepted for joining in. So there's no judgment there, but that could be you could feel ashamed because that's not who you want to be. For me,
Mm.
it's also being curious with that trigger word about maybe it's because in that moment that part of you feels safer to join in. Or maybe if it's not who you want to be, what's making that part continue doing that? So do you see that when you bring curiosity to it, it's not about going out and saying to the world, "Oh yes, I have a lazy part, and I'm okay with it." It's for you and being able to acknowledge it for yourself. And often, like for instance, the lazy thing was my parents' voice in my head. Don't be
Mm.
lazy, don't be lazy. It wasn't even. And then when I think about that, well, why is that? Why do they believe that's lazy? And it's the fear they have about resting because that's not productive and therefore it impacts worth. And do I know that that's 100% true for them? I don't. But that's what I'm surmising and it helps me. So that's all that matters. Make sense?
Mm.
So, most of or many of our shadow parts, we're told by society are bad or negative. We shouldn't have those parts, or somewhere along the line, we've learned it. And the reality is, we all have them. We just don't talk about them. And so, remember the parts that we exile, the parts we put in the shadows, they don't disappear. They wait, they're carrying their shame, and other parts are working so hard to keep them hidden. They're exhausting for the whole system. And acceptance is what lets everyone put the work down.
Um, Joe,
Yeah.
in that moment when you've recognized a shadow part, um, what are some useful things, questions you can ask yourself and at that moment to try and break it down and get deeper?
So in the moment, I would suggest it's you probably feel that flush of shame maybe come over you when you realize what you're doing. And in that moment, I think just a reminder of a part of me is doing this behavior and I don't like, and another part of me is not liking that. This part's doing it for a reason. It's okay. And then the questions to sort of go into, and I think I put some of them in the thing here. Um, okay, I'm just thinking they're not the right questions. I hope I've updated them. I might have to update the workbook. Um, is what is behind the shame? What is this part telling me is wrong that I'm doing? Because what message is the shame trying to give me? Right? And then what is this part needing that's making it carry out this behavior or say these things or whatever it's doing? Because that's trying to fulfill a need. It might be trying to fit in. It might be trying to feel like they're accepted or belonging. It might be what's expected, you feel is expected of you. When I go back to thinking of when I was back in the UK, I was taking part in some of the behaviors that I don't really want to because I got pulled into it. And then I would find a part of me going, "Oh my God, why are you being like this?" Right? And then I realized it's the hardest to be around people that you've behaved in different ways from, who behave in different ways from you and expect you to be in a certain
Yeah.
way. It's exhausting
Yeah.
being around people that gossip and badmouth anyone and everyone. And you're constantly trying to not respond to that, not respond to that. And actually, when I talk back and go, why do you feel the need to judge someone? I'm judging them for judging them. So, this is where compassion comes in. There needs to be some compassion for that part of you that you're ashamed of.
Mm.
So I jumped headfirst into the shame and the exiles and the shadow parts, but also self-acceptance is also about um, thinking about who you think you need to be in order to be accepted by others, and totally forgetting the most important person to accept who you are is you. You know, you are unique. There will never be another you. You're the only one that brings your particular collections of qualities and energies to this world. The only thing stopping you from embracing and accepting you is the parts of you that learned they had to be someone else to be okay.
Mm.
And we talked about comparison last month. And this is one of the things that can stop us from accepting ourselves. A part of us decides we should be more like this or do more of that. And all comparison actually does is dull your light.
Mm.
And some of your beliefs will be stopping you from reaching self-acceptance because I should be more like this. I can't accept myself until this. And these were picked up when you were young, when you maybe that you weren't enough or you had to be different in order to be enough. I certainly feel like I had a lot of those, probably still and still have. And this is why everything in this workshop weaves together. It's all one relationship. So it's also important to acknowledge and celebrate your strengths, of which there are many. Our inbuilt negativity bias, like I said before, likes to show you all the things that you're not, all the things that aren't good about us. And a really crucial part is to start to celebrate who you actually are. When you allow yourself to start to see the good stuff, and that's when the confidence starts to build too. And also to acknowledge the qualities you'd like to change. Self-acceptance isn't only for when you're perfect, because spoiler alert, you'll never get there.
Mhm.
Because you have some unbelievably high standard for yourself. I want you to know that self-acceptance is possible now, as you are, exactly with all the parts that you don't want to have there and everything. You don't get to a magical point when self-acceptance, now I can have self-acceptance.
Mhm.
Imagine how much I would say easier this work would be. It doesn't feel like the right word. If you were able to even believe that self-acceptance now is possible now, not to have it, but even to believe, as I am now, with all of my warts and all, self-acceptance is possible. And I have put a little thing at the end of this section about how it's hardest often to be who we want to be in some environments make it harder than others.
Mm.
The ones where we first learn their jobs were who to like to make sure you're being a person, and you walk back in, those parts go straight back on duty.
Mm.
You might notice part of you being agreeable or saying the right thing, while a part gets frustrated with all the managing and what that stirs up. Every one of them is looking out for you. I had, as I say, that this paragraph has been put in because of my recent experience, is that I felt like I wasn't being me when I went back there. I was trying to be me. It felt really hard because the protectors had swooped in and were not allowing it. Self-acceptance is what allows you to be authentically you. And it's really interesting because the work I do with leadership around this is, for me, when we hear people talk about things like authentic leadership, there is a little part of me that chuckles, because the vast majority of people that talk about authentic leadership are not doing any of this work. And I do not believe you can be truly authentic in your leadership if you're not doing this work.
Mm.
It's like authentic leadership is something you learn,
Mm.
as in, oh, tick, I've done that course. It's about looking inward, not going outward,
Mm.
which also then makes me laugh and chuckle about how businesses don't think this work is important. Not all, some businesses. So, what comes up for you when you think about self-acceptance being available now? Warts and all.
I wish.
Okay. Information. Good. Good to hear that. Yep. Is there any other parts there, Pip?
What do you mean?
That's the obviously the loudest part, right? I wish. Take a moment. Are there any other parts? Is there any part that could go have even an ounce of belief that it might be possible now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. Anyone else want to share what they feel when they hear that? Self-acceptance is possible as you are now.
Mine's more my appearance rather than who I am. So I very much like I've, battled weight my whole life, and I have at this weight, I can go out feeling confident and happy in myself. And when I'm not that weight, I'd rather not leave the house sometimes. So it's more around that than my internal me, I guess.
Yep, that's a really good point. And I think the world we live in and the stories that we've had thrown down our throats, like everywhere we look, literally. I saw a post from somebody, a friend of mine today, and she was converting what 65 kgs was in pounds because a lot of her clients are in the States. And so she trains in kilograms, but they train with pounds with weights and stuff. And she said that she was heartbroken because and when Google says other questions related, other questions that have been asked, the first question came up was, is 65 kgs heavy for a girl? As if the only reason somebody would be searching for 65 kgs would be to check whether they're enough effectively. And so that is such a strong one that we've had thrown down our throats for so long. And I resonate strongly with that. I've also been like yo-yo and stuff, and I've been in like amazing, like there's a part of me that looks back at me from, gosh, I say probably probably about 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, maybe. It feels like it gets further away. And I go, oh, there's a part of me that does that because I'd worked so hard and I was like in the best shape of my life. And there's a part of me that goes, you are as you are. It's not, this is just your suit, your bodysuit, right? It's not who you are. Your light is who you are. And it's not full. It's still a journey I'm on. Don't get me wrong. And it depends on the day, and it depends on my state, and it depends on lots of things. Um, One thing that really, and I say this because you see it all over social media too now. And as soon as somebody puts a picture up for themselves of maybe they've lost weight, and everyone's like, oh my God, you look amazing. And we could reconfirm again that whole, you look amazing, you've lost weight, therefore you look amazing, because we have been told what amazing looks like, and that is thin, maybe, or slim, or whatever you want to say it is, you know? And so and yet I'm also aware that a part of them wants that, to hear that. But I feel like I might say like you're glowing or something like that, but it's not reference to, I try to find something to say that isn't reference to size, because otherwise I feel like we just perpetuate the message.
But also, if someone's put in all that work, which we know it's not a lot of work to get down that, like I think they deserve a compliment for doing so.
Yeah, it's just for me how we do it, because I think
Mm.
otherwise we do just keep perpetuating the message that you're worth more when you're slimmer or you're thinner. And for me, that's just not true. So, anywho, let's move on quickly because we have a couple more sections to go. Just two more. Self-love. This is often one that people go, ugh. For me, it's about regard for your own well-being and happiness. It's about valuing yourself as a human being and somebody who is worthy of love and respect. And it can be confused with self-care, and these two are different. Self-care is more of a doing, and self-love is more of a being. Self-love is the deep knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, that there's nothing that needs fixing, that you are enough exactly as you are. So you can start to see how that then starts to feed into that whole self-acceptance as you are right now. So self-love is the natural flow of self-energy towards a part. It's not something you have to manufacture. When the parts block when the parts that block it softens, it's simply what's there. So again, the practice of getting curious with the parts of you that feel uncomfortable with the idea of self-love or that can resist it. And there will be parts of you that don't feel worthy of love, parts that carry in shame from past experiences, beliefs that they wouldn't be able to receive it. So, like I said before, when we can go towards these parts with that curious, calm energy, it tends to then, when we understand a little bit more, it can develop more into, I can really love and appreciate this part. Again, Alicia, to your ladies' maid part, right? It also takes courage to acknowledge and connect with those parts. And some people I've worked with often think when they think about self-love, they're scared it's going to be seen as or could become narcissistic, right? And those two things are very, very different. Self-love is an honest and authentic appreciation for yourself, giving yourself the validation you need, taking the pride in what you do and recognizing it's okay to feel uncertain and doubt yourself from now and then. Narcissism is the opposite. It's comparing yourselves to others and always finding yourself better, craving constant validation from the outside and needing others to see you in a certain way, manipulating how people see you. Self-love is self-focused and narcissism is other-focused. And so the part of you that holds that fear is knowing that you can start to experience that self-love because it's not something that's generally modeled to us. Can anyone say that they've had self-love regularly modeled to them? No, I'm hearing tumbleweeds rather than noise. So, yeah. And a crucial part of self-love is also acceptance and responsibility, which topics we've covered in module 1. We all have a light to shine. And the most of the time we dull it. And for me, that dulling has an impact on everyone around you. And even further, when we allow ourselves to acknowledge and shine our light, the ripple effect is huge. You never get to see quite how big it is. But a powerful question to get in the habit of asking yourself is, how can I shine my light today? And we've already talked about fear versus love, right? But ways to show yourself some love is like acknowledging good things about yourself, like we've already talked about, prioritizing what's important to you. And when you hear a part of you saying something negative about yourself, or what would love say or do? I love that phrase. I remember coming out of a workshop once, and I may have shared this with you before, where I delivered a workshop and it felt really good and it had gone really well. And then as soon as it came out, the critic part came out and go, oh, but you never went over the outcomes to make sure we'd hit them, and you could have done this better. And in that moment, I was like, what would love say? And it's like, you did a really good job, and you've noticed some places where you can make it even better next time. Very different response to the whole critique, right? But how can I shine my light today? I love that question because it might just literally be smiling at a stranger, right? But when we show up in that sort of self energy, that sort of natural self-love flowing and self-accept, all these selves just happening naturally because we're in that self energy, it does automatically impact everyone and everything around you. It can't not. So, final one, self-worth. And internal sense of being good enough, worthy of love, of belonging. It's a sense of your value as a human being. And everything we've already talked about in this workshop is reconnecting to your worth. And the impact of everything above is a greater and deeper sense of your own worth. So a couple of things, again, comparison can impact your self-worth. You can feel less than, or more accurately, a part of you can feel less than. Again, noticing the difference between those two sentences. You feel less than, or a part of you feels less than. One defines you, another one invites you to turn inwards. And building self-compassion is a crucial part of reconnecting to your self-worth. Also, I want to mention here about expectations. What are your expectations of yourself? Often they're off the chart, right? Parts of us believe we should be doing something a certain way in order to have worth. And also, this is where I want to link it back to what we said before about productivity being connected to our worth. It's been so ingrained in us. You just have to see in the amount of people that can't sit still. They can't rest because they have to be doing something the whole time, because then otherwise they might have to be feel that they're not worth anything. I see it time and time and time and time again. If you stop and a part of you thinks you haven't earned this, even our turn of phrase. I remember once, a few years ago, I went on a few days over to Waiheke, and I went to share something in my Facebook group actually to say having a well-earned break. And I'm like, oh, even that, a well-earned break. Like I have to earn taking a break. So it's everywhere. It's so ingrained in us that we need to be productive in order to rest. Out of interest, who here struggles to rest and just not be productive in some way or shape or form? Yeah. Mm.
I find it difficult when I have a husband who's an active relaxer and he's busy, and
Oh,
I feel really stressed all the time, or I feel that he's judging me
yep.
for sitting around. He's not, and he's okay with that, but I feel like I should be doing something when he's busy.
I
Holiday's a
have,
constant juggle for you, Lindell.
What's that?
A holiday is like a constant juggle for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, and like I want to read a book
Yeah.
Yeah.
for hours,
My
Yep.
for a
husband's
really
yeah,
long time.
exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah.
I have one of those too.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I,
yeah,
I I'm curious whether maybe it's even more deeply ingrained in them, because I say to trauma response, sit down.
yeah. But even just sleeping in, like my most favorite thing to do is not set an alarm,
Mm.
um, and just wake up and get up when I want to, not because we have to for some weird reason. We have to get up at a certain time, Anyway,
Mhm.
I that has resonates strongly with exactly what you've just said, and it's very different now. He still does all the stuff, and often he'll come, like today. I've been sat on the sofa all afternoon. I have been working, to be fair, but I've been sat on the sofa, and he comes in and he starts tidying up. He starts doing this stuff, and I'm just like, I used to be going, oh, sorry, I was going to do that.
mm,
No, I'll do that now, and I'm just like, okay. It's his
mm,
if he gets annoyed at anything, it's his responsibility to communicate that to me, right?
mm, mm.
And I got up and I made dinner. And occasionally I'll apologize, but I've stopped apologizing for it,
Yeah,
because, or I might just explain that I've had a hell of an afternoon, that my mind's been all over the place. I've had full on no executive functioning whatsoever. And yeah, and I'll just go, that's kind of it. And also, he likes doing those things. And
yeah,
I have come to the fact that it's his responsibility to communicate. If he is pissed off with me, then tell me.
yeah. It's funny because one of those trigger words that I find is the question of what's your plan today on a weekend? What's your plan today? And
None.
I'm like, I don't really want a plan, but like the pressure is to have a plan.
Mhm.
Like that productivity in the weekend because we've got it. So let's do stuff. And so yeah, that was what I was thinking about when you're saying that. It's like, whew, yeah,
And what I would suggest is, when you actually do allow yourself to start to have days of not doing anything with no plan and just reading that book for hours and stuff, you don't want to do that all the time, because then that would get boring, but you need some of that. So allowing yourself, because the amount of time people are resting, but they're not really resting because they've got the narrative in their head, you should be doing something, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. And so
It's
it's not even rest,
wow.
you know?
They have to leave, go away.
So it's kind of like when you can get that out of your mind and actually really properly allow yourself to rest. Because we might have a weekend of, when I say we're not actually out doing, oh, he's doing loads of stuff around the house and I'm resting,
Yeah,
right? But then the weekend after, I'll be like, oh, I want to go out and do something now, or let's
yeah,
go do something. But that only really happened when I really started to let myself rest, because I realized that actually I don't want every weekend of doing
Mm.
nothing.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been through burnout 3 times, so I've learned how to rest
Good.
and say when I need to not do something.
And isn't it? It's like it took 3 times.
Yeah.
Not just one, three.
I'm a slow learner.
Absolutely. So just to repeat again, the self cannot be damaged, right? What we're working with in this program is working with those parts that are clouding over that self. So be starting to connect back to these things, starting to work with these parts of you, starts to give you more of that access to back to self. And obviously, you've got the pathways to self in there as well. So just allowing yourself to have a look. What has resonated the most? As I said, this is not these are 6 projects, but I'm curious to know which one of these maybe resonated the most with you, that makes you most curious around. Alicia, which one resonates the most for you?
I think this is, part of me probably being a little bit judgy and it's all a bit fluffy and weird, but the self-love thing. So I follow Chelsea Winter. I don't know if anyone else does, but I've followed her for her cooking and have all her cookbooks and love the way I learned to cook from her cookbooks. She's now become quite fluffy and all her things are around, lighting candles and when it's her time of the month looking after herself and letting herself. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, people have been judging me and it's because I've been doing my inner work. And I'm like, is that like, I don't want to be that person. Like she's just gone a bit different. And that's okay for her. That's who she is. That's great. But the whole self-love thing, that's what makes me feel is like that it's a bit airy, fairy, fluffy, not very solid.
Yeah. I would say that is that obviously that's a part of a response, that it for some reason that doesn't feel okay. It feels, yeah. And so just being curious with that. And remember, it doesn't have to, it can feel different or be described differently or be a different way that you determine it's going to be for you. It's just, it might not even be that phrase that you use. For a lot of people, self-acceptance for them feels more like self-love.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just allowing that to marinate maybe a little bit. And being curious about what does it being soft mean, and just noticing what comes up.
I don't think anyone demonstrated that to me. Like you keep saying, like, did anyone
Yeah,
show you? Like, I don't know, my whole family is just, you just get on and do it. Like,
yeah.
yeah. Like,
Nourishment instead, maybe self-nourishment.
yeah. Yeah.
Sarah, how about you? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, lots to think about. Yeah, no, there's parts of all of them that I need to work on and read through. I've kind of got a bit out of, I've lost track of the course. Like I haven't been able to read and catch up. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, maybe that's just a focus for this the next week, is just finding some time just to go over some things and just see what resonates. Everything that we've talked about today is in the notes, so you can do that.
Mm.
Oh, Pip, how about you?
What really resonated tonight was when I think the second time you said you can't damage the self. It suddenly resonated with me, and I thought, because you can't damage the self because the self is what you create it to be, right? So everything, all your parts are created by you, and you
Yeah.
you control them.
And it's yeah, it's that kind of like, for me, it's just knowing that underneath it is exactly who you are. And that these parts have just learned somewhere along the line that exactly who you are wasn't acceptable or wasn't safe to be or whatever it might be. So we've come on to try and make you a different way to be accepted. And actually, those now can, the more you connect to those, they can start to step back and loosen their grip. And then naturally, you come out, so to speak. When I'm in environments that, for instance, when I'm in like conversations that are really curious and full of people that are just very non-judgmental and really open, naturally I become me. I become a very different person too when I'm in a situation, like for instance, when I'm with my family, and I'm a very, very different me. And so also noticing what environments allow you to be more of who you maybe want to be. And I would suggest who you want to be is naturally there already. It's just coming back to it.
Yeah, makes
Nice.
sense.
Cool. Jill, how about you?
Probably the self-acceptance and accepting all of me and all of my parts, because we were talking about that, part of me that kept popping up was like, I don't want to accept those shadow parts that I don't like about myself. I just don't want them. So probably about being more curious about that and starting to acknowledge and talk to them a bit more, perhaps. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And being curious about what those parts are concerned would happen if you
Mm.
did accept yourself, if you did accept them, because they're like other parts would be like, whoa, you know.
Mm. Mm.
And Lindell.
I think strongly that whole idea of my self-worth. I know that I have some really unrealistic expectations of myself. um, yeah, something that someone challenged me on around the language I was using. I was saying I need to figure out how I can add value to this situation. And she said to me, but you bring it. You are you are the value. And I stopped and I thought about that and I thought, oh, okay. That really helped. Well, that was just kind of a new thought for me. And I've been thinking about that as we're talking about self-worth and having realistic expectations, I guess, of unrealistic expectations of myself, and knowing that that's probably where I need to add compassion, I guess,
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
Because I would say also that it's about releasing all expectations, right? For
Yeah.
me, the only expectation is curiosity. And
Yeah.
so if I can be curious with what shows up
Yeah.
with that, then it's not, you're always learning, always moving forward. It's just those expectations generally are very unachievable thing.
Yeah.
So it's how can I let go of the expectations and be able to accept myself without having to meet any expectations in the first place.
Yeah, because that's a moving target that just keeps going up and up and up. And
Absolutely.
even when you do get somewhere, it's never enough for really and what's going on in your head. Well, for me, what's going on in my head. So yes, releasing. I like that word,
Yeah.
releasing those expectations.
Because what it does is it always makes self-worth, self-acceptance, self-love, everything like all in always in the future and never here now.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, nice.
All right, ladies, I realized today I hadn't recorded the audio for today's one. So I recorded it and then it had a fit and deleted it and I had to do it again. So I will upload it all for now and I'll upload the recording once I get it back. Any questions before we wrap up?
That's cool. Thank
Just I
you.
may not see you for 2 weeks because we have parent-teacher interviews next week and they're meant to run until 7:30. So you
No
may
worries.
see me next week, or I may come home and crash, or I may come home late. So
No worries, lovely. If you have any questions or anything, you know where I am.
sweet. Thank
All
you.
right then. Take care, everyone, and I'll see
Hey,
you next week.
Bye,
Cheers. See
everyone.
see
ya.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.